Hello everyone. Take a trip with me into darkness, the darkest realms of all origin. Take my hand as we traverse this journey into the heart of the Grim Reaper. Before you can have the Grim Reaper, a personification of death, you have to have death itself. In almost all cultures and religions, humans were first created as immortal beings who fell from their state of perfection. Clearly, what happens as we die, as well as what happens after we die, is a major concern, as it has been for thousands of years. To make sense of dying and mortality, humans relied on a tried and true method. They give death a form they recognize. This turns an abstract, invisible phenomenon into something real and tangible. If you look at death and see a familiar face, you can understand it. If you look at death and see a kind, gentle face, even better, you can put aside your fears. Of course, it can work the other way. You can find a terrifying countenance when you look upon death. If you're going to give death a human face, why not make it friendly? That was the approach taken by the Greeks, who named death Thanatos. Thanatos was the twin brother of Hypnos, the god of sleep, and both were portrayed as young, pleasant men. In some illustrations, Thanatos appears with wings and an extinguished flame. His job was to accompany the departed to Hades, the Greek underworld. Feminine versions of death also occur. In Norse mythology, the Valkyries were beautiful young women who served as both Odin's messengers and as escorts to the souls of warriors killed in battle. In fact, Valkyrie means choosers of the slain. The Valkyries are reminiscent of angels, the spiritual intermediaries between God and humans. In some stories, angels carry messages to mortals or to protect them from harm. In other stories, they interact with the deceased, tormenting those who have sinned. The angel of death, a spirit that extracts one's soul from the body at a moment of death, appears in many religions and cultures. Conceptually, the angel of death was firmly entrenched in European religion and culture by the end of the Middle Ages, but an epidemiological event occurred in the late 14th century that would forever change how the average person viewed and responded to death. That event was the medieval-era plague, one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. At least 25 million people died in the initial outbreak of the plague, and millions more continued to die in outbreaks that flared up for centuries. Not surprisingly, death began to appear as skeleton in artwork from this area. In fact, most artists portrayed the skeletal form of death in similar ways. He was often shown holding a dart, a crossbow, or some other weapon. Eventually, these implements would be replaced with a scythe, a mowing tool composed of a long curving blade, fastened at an angle to a long handle. Many paintings show death swinging the scythe through a crowd of people, mowing down souls as if they were grain. Sometimes, a young woman stood at death's side as a reminder of the link existing between life and death. In the Great Plague of London, an outbreak that occurred between 1665 and 1666, 1 in 5 residents succumbed. With death and dying such an integral part of daily life, it makes sense that artists and illustrators began to depict death as a corpse or a skeleton. Black has long been associated with death and mourning. People wear black to funerals and transport the dead in black hearses, but black is often also the color of evil forces. The black cloak also gives the Reaper an air of mystery and menace. The things we can't see frighten us as much as the things we can, so the Reaper hides himself within the shadows of his cloak, playing off of our fears of the unknown. In early renderings, the Reaper is shown holding arrows, darts, spears, or crossbows. These are the weapons he uses to strike down his victims. Over time, a scythe came to replace these other instruments of death. Bringing this imagery of death was a natural extension of an agrarian society in which harvesting, done in the fall, represented the death of another year. Just as we harvest our crops, so does death harvest souls for their journey into the afterlife. The classic hourglass has 2 glass bulbs containing sand that takes an hour to pour from the upper to the lower bulb. It is such a strong symbol for time and passage that it has survived to the digital age. The Grim Reaper clutches an hourglass too, letting us know that our days are numbered. When the sand runs out, our time is up. We can only hope that we have more than an hour left to live. Funny or scary, man or woman, the Grim Reaper will likely remain a staple of our pop culture diets. But even if storytellers grow tired of dealing with death and dying, the Reaper will wait patiently in the shadows and come for each of us in the end.